question 2, I included fractions or decimals in each problem to make it a little bit difficult so that I can see if you really understand how to solve equations. Let's start by looking at number 1. There are no like terms on the left side, there are no like terms on the right side. So that means that we can start moving terms from one side to the other. I'm going to move the variables to the right side and the constants are going to be on the left side. I'm going to start by moving this positive 1/3 to the left side. I do that by using inverse operations. On this side, 1/3 minus 1/3 gives me 0 and I'm left with x. On the left side, -3 minus 1/3 gives you -3 and 1/3. And I copy down the -1/4 x. Now over to the side, I'm going to show you that I could have also changed a -3 so that it had a denominator of 3. 1 times 3 equals 3. So we also multiply -3 by 3 and get -9. So I could have taken -9/3 and then taken the 1/3 from that, and I would have gotten -10/3. So this is the same thing as -1/3. It's just written as an improper fraction. The next step I'm going to take is I'm going to move this variable with its coefficient to the variable side. I do that using inverse operations. Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other. Over here, -1/4 x plus 1/4 x leaves you with -10/3 on the left side. And on the right side, 1x plus 1/4 x is 1 and 1/4 x. I could have also written 1 in the form of 4/4, combine it in 1/4 to get 5/4 x. So 1 and 1/4 is the same as 5/4 x. The reason I like to have it as an improper fraction is so that I can use the reciprocal to get the x alone. On this side, I multiplied 5/4 x times 4/5. And when you multiply 5 times 4, you get 20. When you multiply 4 times 5, you get 20. So we get a value of 1, and we put that beside our x. So we're left with 1x on the right side. On the left side, I'm going to cancel. 5 and -10 have a common factor of 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. -10 divided by 5 is a -2. And then I'm going to multiply across, like you normally do with fractions. 4 times a -2 is a -8. 1 times 3 gives you 3. So my answer is x equals -8/3, or I could write this in another form as a mixed number. I could write this as 2. 3 times 2 equals 6. The difference between 6 and 8 is 2. So you could also write this as a -2 2/3. If you're not sure that you change it to a mixed number properly, just go backwards. Multiply 2 times 3 and get 6. Add 2, and you'll go back to that 8/3. So the answer is either -8/3 or -2 2/3. Either one is correct. Number 2. On the left side this time, we can collect like terms. We always want to collect like terms before we move everything to, well, before we move all the variables to one side and all the constants to the other side. So 2/3 minus 2, we're left with -1 and 1/3. And over to the side, we could have had -2 written with a denominator of 3. 1 times 3 equals 3, so that means we need to multiply -2 times 3 as well. So -6/3 plus 2/3, we would have been left with -4/3. So I'm going to write that instead of the -1 and 1/3. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move the variables all to one side and the constants to the other. So I'm going to move the variables to this side, and I'm going to move the constants to the left side. So let's start with the variables. So I'm going to move this 1/5 x from the constant side over to the variable side using inverse operations. Now I saw a lot of people when I was going around thinking that they should combine the -2/5 and the -1/5 x. However, this has an x. This does not have an x variable, so they are not like terms. For them to be like terms, they have to have the same variable with the same exponent, and these both have an x with a power of 1. So 1 minus 1/5 x, we're left with 4/5 x, and I carry down the -2/5. On the left side, -1/5 x and 1/5 x cancel, that equals 0, and we're left with -4/3. Now I can move this constant -2/5 to the constant side. This is -2/5, so we use addition to move the constant to the left side. On the right side, that canceled, it equals 0, so we're left with just this 4/5 x. We got rid of the -2/5. On the other side, we need to change these two values so that they have the same denominator. So this is a negative value. This is going to be a positive value. And what we do is we ask ourselves, 5 times what gives you 15? Well, 5 times 3 gives you 15. So that means I take 2 and I multiply it by 3 to get the value that goes in the numerator. So now we have this new value, 6/15, that replaces the 2/5. For the -4/3, 3 times 5 will give us 15. So then I multiply the 4 times 5, and I get 20. So this is -20/15 plus 6/15. We're going to be left with -14/15 because we have more of the negatives than we do of the positives. Now we can multiply each side by the reciprocal to get x alone. Over here, I'm left with 1x. On the other side, I'm going to cancel those that diagonally have like terms. So 14, or -14 and 4 both have a common factor of 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. -14 divided by 2 is -7. And then 15 and 5 also have a common factor. That's 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply across. -7 times 1 is a -7. 2 times 3 gives me a +6. So x equals -7/6. -7/6. And we could write that one other way. We could also write it as a mixed number. So x equals, we can get 1 out of that. So we use 6 out of 6 to get our 1. So we have 1 left over. So you could also have had x equals -1 and 1/6. And that's all we're going to have time for in this video. Station 2 will be completed in part 2 of Station 2.